to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And before I get started, just want everybody to know I'll be at work today. So if anything does break, I'll have it up on the page later today. I also am trying to get Dougly Durong on the channel tonight. I don't know if it'll be live or taped or whatever it will be, but he is a Dolphins YouTuber who I think could give us even more insight into our most recent coaching acquisitions, being that both our quarterbacks coach and defensive coordinator are formerly of the Miami Dolphins. So I'll try to get that up for you tonight. But in this video, we are going to talk about Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons is everybody's favorite guy at this point in time for the New York Giants to take, or at least most people. Some people definitely still want to take a left tackle, being that, it is probably the second or third most important position on a football team. You got a young quarterback in Daniel Jones, and he could use all the protection he could get. And there's certainly some very good left tackle prospects, Andrew Thomas being one of them. But Isaiah Simmons is definitely a special talent. And I think after last night's performance in the national championship game, he will certainly be moving up draft boards. On the national stage, you got to see what this guy brings to the table. He brings versatility. It is exactly what Joe Judge has talked about since taking over this job. And in modern-day football, you need the linebacker position to do what this guy can do. Last night, you saw this guy line up all over the field. He played middle linebacker. He played outside linebacker. I think he played some safety. He played some slot corner. He even played some outside corner for a few plays. He was all over the field. They had him spying the wide receiver. I think he was spying Moss, if I'm not mistaken. You saw him break through line of scrimmage. He had, I think, one sack. He might have had 1.5. Had a couple of tackles for loss, couple of batted balls, 7 tackles in all. And you see what this guy does. You see that this guy is a special talent. He was going up against the best team in the country. So I think Isaiah Simmons, who was being mocked between like 6 and 9 in most mock drafts, might have certainly helped his stock. And maybe he even goes as high as 3. I don't think he'll go 2 to the Redskins. I think the Redskins are still going Chase Young. I don't expect them to take an Isaiah Simmons. They just invested a ton of money in a player similar to that of an Isaiah Simmons. Not saying that Landon Collins has the same skill set, but he is an in-the-box safety, a guy, a heavy hitter, a guy that could do multiple things. I expect Simmons to be better. Simmons, I think, stands at, 6'4", 230. He's a big body, but he could cover. He could do it all. And he like what we're looking for, this guy could play any position you want him to. In certain packages. Obviously, in the NFL nowadays, certain packages you have 1 linebacker, certain packages you have 2, because you want more DBs out there, because it's more of a passing league than it ever has been before. And it's very valuable to have players that can do what he can. He literally showed you everything last night. I'm going to get into some of the quotes, some of the tweets about people getting excited. New York Giants fans really want this guy, and I'll tell you what, he might have jumped up to 3 based off of last night. Obviously, the combine's still going to play a factor, things like that. But Isaiah Simmons' stock is certainly on the rise. And if he's there at 4 for the New York Giants, I think there's a strong possibility we could take him. Of course, everything's still going to depend on free agency. If we decide to go, with a Conklin in free agency, more than likely we're probably going to take a guy like a Simmons with the 4th overall pick. But like I said, the Lions could still take him. The Lions could go Okudah. The Lions go a couple of ways there. But, it's looking more and more likely that Simmons is becoming more possible to the New York Giants if they do stay at 4 and do not trade down. Really impressive performance last night. That's all I can say. But let's jump into some of the things that I was able to gather off the internet. Found one, I think it was on Giants Wire, talking about his versatility, and a couple other things that I wanted to pull up for you guys. So here is Isaiah Simmons, and there is the first quote. This is talking about the need, for a new age linebacker, a guy that could drop back in coverage. It says, the linebacker position has evolved unlike any other over the past decade. In 2009, 10 years ago, defenses had 5 or more defensive backs in only 35.7% of their plays. This season, that number rose to 58%, and it's only climbing. What was once a position with 3 starting slots, talking about the linebacker position, available has dwindled to 2, and in some defenses to only 1. So that's what this guy could do. He could play everything. And linebackers like him are the new age linebackers. Gone are the days of having guys that are in there just for run defense. You need guys that could guard the tight end, could guard the running back coming out of the backfield, could guard the slot wide receiver at the linebacker position. And when you see, and I don't go crazy with PFF, but when you see what they had to say about this guy, comparing him to other linebackers that have come out, you're probably going to get pretty excited. Here's the next quote. This is what PFF was able to come up with of where he lined up playing defense this year throughout college. Of his 738 snaps this season, here's where Simmons lined up. He had 106 snaps on the defensive line, 239 snaps in the box, 256 snaps at the slot corner, 7 times he lined up at the wide corner, and 130 times as a drop back, as a deep safety. So, 5 different positions this guy could play. A true unicorn, as New York Knicks fans like to call Kristaps Porzingis. And then this is what PFF had to say. Considering Judge's, obviously talking about the New York Giants, Joe Judge, considering Judge's desire, scheme, and personnel flexibility, a chess piece like Simmons could be in play for the Giants with the 4th overall pick in the draft. And I just made a video on this. That was the first thing that popped in my head when I was watching Joe Judge's press conference. Of all the linebackers to come out in the last half decade since we started grading college players at PFF, no one has displayed a more versatile skill set than Clemson's Isaiah Simmons. Standing at 6'4", 230 pounds, Simmons might as well have been created in a lab to play defense in today's NFL. He can go from rushing off the edge to off the ball, the slot, and deep safety seamlessly from play to play. He is one of the new Derwin James, Jamal Adams hybrid defender mold, only in a larger package. So he's a bigger version of those guys. Simmons' ability to blur the linebacker safety positional designation is going to be a defensive coordinator's best friend at the next level. Simmons is the definition of what you want in a modern linebacker. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff, guys. And then I'm going to just pull up some tweets of people that were tracking. This is one that where he was tracking where he lined up on the first 3 drives of last night's national championship. Through the first 3 drives, he had 4 snaps at the inside linebacker, 3 at the outside linebacker, 2 at the slot corner, 1 at the defensive end, and 1 at the outside cornerback position. 2 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB pressure, 1 pass breakup. Number 11 is a unicorn. There is no comparison for him. And yeah, like I said, I think he ended up with a sack, maybe a sack and a half, but he was all over the field. Especially early on in the game, he came out and looked incredibly impressive. And here's the next tweet. This is a Panthers fan talking about him. If I'm the Panthers, I'd take a hard look at Isaiah Simmons if he's available. He's a true unicorn and a playmaker that this defense desperately needs and missed last season. A true chess piece. He will be high on my team's draft board. Yeah, I think he's going to be much higher on everybody's draft board. Panthers, I believe, pick at 7. And I don't think, I'd be surprised if he's there for Matt Rule. I think he's starting to climb up draft boards. And I also wanted to show you guys this one. This, of course, is Jordan Rannon, who covers the New York Giants, I believe, for ESPN. And he just simply writes, Isaiah Simmons, stud, Giants, number 4. So there you have it. I mean, really impressive performance last night from Isaiah Simmons. And he's certainly a player that we could use because he checks off a lot of boxes, things that we need. We complain all the time. I mean, you look at the linebackers we have right now. David Mayo, as good as he is, he played very well against the run. Can't cover to save his life. Alec Ogletree can't cover. We've got old school linebackers. We need a guy like this. We could definitely use an Isaiah Simmons. Kind of like a much better version of a Deone Bucannon. Buchanan came into the league with the Cardinals. In his first couple of years, he was incredibly impressive. I think he was a late first-round pick for Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. And he played that position very well. He was kind of the first guy to take on this role, a guy that was thought to be an undersized linebacker. Now, this guy's much bigger, but he would be a jack-of-all-trades player similar to what a Deone Bucannon was when he first came into the league. A guy who I think the New York Giants may actually look to keep on a cheap contract, being that he also fits this defensive strategy. We'll have to wait and see what the Giants decide to do there. But that's what Simmons brings to the table, that money backer. He can line up on the inside, the outside. He could do everything you could possibly want in a defensive player for the New York Giants. And that's why I think his stock is going to rise based off of last night's performance. I only expect his combine to continue to impress people. A guy that's as big as him, 6'4", 230, and can move like he can and can cover like he can. I mean, like Joe Judge says, I mean, who better to draft for our defensive philosophy? 1 week you may want more DBs out there, and he can still stay in there. 1 week, you may want to guard against the run and have a more traditional linebacker set, and he could do that as well. So Simmons might be the number one target for the New York Giants in the draft. We'll have to wait and see if they decide to go tackle, but I think a lot of Giants fans are getting on board the Isaiah Simmons train. We'll have to wait and see if it takes off, and if the New York Giants do, in fact, take him at number 4 if he's there. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.